The Epstein List. Talk about a volatile topic. The one thing you'll notice if you just step back and look is that topics like this, or UFOs, or email servers, or the laptop, and the list goes on, but the one thing you'll notice is that they always come up whenever someone doesn't want you to look too closely at something else. With the divisiveness we currently see in the country and the world, you have to ask, who's behind it, and why are they doing it? The who almost inevitably ends up being the government, or at least part of it. As for the why, well, if we're all busy fighting each other, we don't have time, energy, or desire to watch what the government is doing, let alone fight back. No matter who you are or what your beliefs, political or otherwise, this channel is going to piss you off. I am going to take a long, hard look at current topics in the news, and I'm going to tell you if they're being used to manipulate you or not. Since the Epstein List is currently in the news, that's what I'm going to start with. This one is a little odd, because there are people on both sides who want it released, and others who definitely want it buried. This isn't a left or right, Republican or Democrat issue. If the list is released, and it names names, people on both sides are going to get hit with the backsplash. So the question is, am I being manipulated? Without even looking into it, my gut tells me yes, we are all being manipulated with this. But my gut isn't an objective arbiter of what is fact. So how can we find out, objectively, if we are being manipulated? Well, there just happens to be a tool for doing exactly that. It's called the NCI Engineered Reality Scorecard. It consists of just 20 questions you ask about the topic. You give each question a score from 1 to 5. 1 means that the element is not present. 5 means that it is overwhelmingly present. You then add up the scores from the 20 questions to give you the full score. If the full score is 25 or below, there is a low likelihood of a PSYOP. A score of 26 to 50 means that there is a moderate likelihood. Look deeper. A score of 51 to 75 shows a strong likelihood of manipulation. A score of 76 or above means that there are overwhelming signs of a PSYOP. The thing to keep in mind while we do this is that the Epstein List came back into prominence during the government shutdown. While it never really went away, it wasn't a daily news item like it became once again during the shutdown. Also, this system doesn't tell us anything about the truth of the topic, only how likely it is that someone is manipulating others. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the first question and determine if we are being manipulated with the Epstein List. Question number 1 is about timing. Does the timing feel suspicious or coincidental with other events? I will give this a 4 out of 5. The shutdown began October 1st, and the Epstein files have been repeatedly tied to it. Democrats openly said that Republicans kept the House out of the session because they had, quote, secured the final vote on releasing the Epstein files, unquote. As soon as the shutdown was over, passing a bill to release the list was the first thing the American public heard about. No one knows or cares what else Congress passed immediately upon reopening the government. 2. Emotional manipulation. Does it provoke fear, outrage, or guilt without solid evidence? This also gets a 4 out of 5. One headline read, "Stories evoke outrage over elite cover-ups and Trump's flip-flop with vivid Epstein-Trump ties, but limited new evidence." Everyone believes that the majority of people on the list all come from the political other side. It stirs guilt and fear without depth. Republicans talk about all the Democrats contained in the list. Democrats say the same about Republicans, especially Donald Trump. Number 3. Uniform messaging. Are key phrases or ideas repeated across the media? This also gets a 4 out of 5. Certainly, all the legacy media, with the exception of Fox, is giving the same exact talking points. Consistent use of phrases like bombshell emails or Epstein's critical view of Trump across outlets create echo. There's no substance, but everyone knows what the Epstein List is. Question number 4. Missing information. Are alternative views or critical details excluded? This also gets a 4 out of 5. There are sparse details on email contexts, full document access, or non-Trump figures. Alternatives like estate disputes are unexplored. DOJ and FBI materials indicating no official, quote, client list, unquote, contradicts Pam Bondi stating that it was on her desk. The fact that there is no evidence of a blackmail list existing, and that many names in the earlier releases were bystanders or employees, often gets less attention in political rhetoric about the list. I'm tempted to bump this up to a 5, as Congress just voted, nearly unanimously, to release the Epstein List. Attorney General Pam Bondi said right after that there is an ongoing investigation, so only materials not related to that investigation will be released, which we all know means nothing will be released. Question number 5. Simplistic narratives. Is the story reduced to a good versus evil framework? This gets a 5 out of 5. A recurring story frame is they're hiding the Epstein List versus we're fighting for transparency, casting one side as villains and the other side as heroes. Anyone who might be on such a list is considered the very definition of evil, and both sides claim to be the heroes. Question number 6. Tribal divisions. Does it create an us versus them dynamic? This gets a 4 out of 5. The left pits Trump allies against oversight reformers, fueling partisan rifts. AOC's viral "the government is in full shutdown because we have secured the final vote on releasing the Epstein files" is a textbook us versus them message. Yet when it came down to it, only one representative voted against the bill, and the Senate voted unanimously for it. Both sides blame the other as the bad guys. Question number 7. Authority overload. Are questionable quote-unquote experts driving the narrative? I'm giving this a 2 out of 5. While the narrative is certainly being driven by the legacy media, that's only because members of Congress are demanding the list be released. The only actual expert here died in his jail cell. Question number 8. Call for urgent action. Does it demand immediate decisions without reflection? This is also a 2 out of 5. There are a lot of accusations that House Speaker Johnson killed a floor vote on releasing the list just before the government shut down. Democrats tried to frame the shutdown as Republicans doing whatever it took to avoid releasing the list. When that failed to gain traction, they shifted to healthcare, then food benefits. While a bill was quickly passed and signed into law as soon as the government reopened, that law doesn't really affect anyone. It really was all for show. Question number 9. Overuse of novelty. Is the event framed as shocking or unprecedented? This gets a 4 out of 5. Passing the law has caused several high-level people to resign within hours. The events as a whole have cost one English prince his titles, salary, and reputation. The fact that the entire list is about politicians and other officials having sex with underage girls is absolutely shocking, if not completely unprecedented. Number 10. Financial political gain. Do powerful groups benefit disproportionately? This gets a 4 out of 5. Politically, this story is clearly useful. Both parties are fundraising and rallying their bases around the files and the shutdown, and lawmakers openly talk about leverage and blame. The odd thing here is that it works for both sides, not one over the other. That is why it gets a 4 instead of a 5. Question number 11. Suppression of dissent. Are critics silenced or labeled negatively? I give this a 2 out of 5. There really isn't much dissension. The one lawmaker who voted against the bill in the House stated that his reason was that the bill did nothing to protect the victims. Not an unreasonable objection. This certainly isn't like COVID and the shot, where if you didn't get the shot or you had any questions about the shot, you were against science. Question number 12. False dilemmas. Are only 2 extreme options presented? This gets a 3 out of 5. There are only 2 options and they are both extremes. Yes or no. Release the list or don't release it. There is no other option here. So the false dilemma comes down to, will releasing the list hurt anyone, and if so, who? No one wants the victims to be hurt any more than they already have been, but everyone wants blood for anyone who abused these young girls. Question number 13. Bandwagon effect. Is there pressure to conform because, quote, everyone is doing it, unquote? This gets a 2 out of 5. The phrase Epstein files and calls for release trend across social media. but news reports don't show a massive orchestrated everyone join this one hashtag or you're bad campaign, unlike what we've seen with COVID, BLM, Gaza, or other causes in the last 5 years. Question number 14. Emotional repetition. Are the same emotional triggers repeated excessively? I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. The list is constant. Democrats attempted to release a redacted email claiming one of the victims saw President Trump at the island, but that failed as soon as it was revealed that the email in question had been released earlier, unredacted, and that the redacted name was Virginia Giuffre, who, before her death, said repeatedly that Donald Trump was never part of any wrongdoing. The release of the email and redacting the name was most definitely an attempt at emotional manipulation. Question 15. Cherry-picked data. Are statistics presented selectively or out of context? Headlines often highlight specific big names, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, and others, to be sure dramatic anecdotes, or selected emails are used without the broader context that the files include thousands of pages, most of them mundane or already known. Question number 16. Logical fallacies. Are flawed arguments used to dismiss critics? I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. Clear guilt by association is the main fallacy. Anyone who knew Jeffrey Epstein at any time is assumed by many to be guilty. If you flew on his private jet at any time, for any reason, you must have been on the island. If you were on the island, then you must have slept with underage girls. Question number 17. Manufactured outrage. Does outrage seem sudden or disconnected from the facts? This gets a solid 4 out of 5. While there is ample reason for outrage, as I pointed out in the last question, there is also a lot of rage that has simply been manufactured. An example was the Democrats' claim that the government shutdown was all in order to avoid a vote on releasing the list. Similar outrage has been manufactured from both political sides, at various times, for various reasons. Question number 18. Framing techniques. Is the story shaped to control how you perceive it? Most definitely. I give this a 4 out of 5. As I just pointed out, the entire government shutdown was originally attempted to be blamed on Republicans avoiding a vote to release the Epstein list. Trump says that a lot of Democrats are on the list. Democrats all want Trump to be on the list. Everyone says that members of Congress, all from the other side, are definitely on the list. Question number 19. Rapid behavioral shifts. Are groups adopting symbols or actions without clear reasoning? I'll give this a 3 out of 5. For the most part, everyone seems to want the list released. There have been some shifts, though. Earlier in the year, when asked about the Epstein list by a reporter, Trump replied, "Are you still talking about that?" indicating that it was a nonsense question. Republicans, for the most part, backed him. Now Trump has signed the bill making it law to release the list. Of course, his attorney general almost immediately stated that there is an ongoing investigation into the list. That will block any attempt at release because of due process. Last question, number 20. Historical parallels. Does the story mirror manipulative past events? This gets a 3 out of 5. This is far from the first time that various members of Congress have demanded the list be released. It is also not the first time that political maneuvering has kept the list from being released. This is, as they say, politics. It's a shame that it is, but the list, if it actually exists, is just too powerful. It would end careers and lives if it ever saw the light of day. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm simply saying that it is. Okay, having answered all the questions, we get a total score of 68. That is right in the center of the range, telling us that it is a strong likelihood that we are being manipulated. I'm fairly certain that you already knew that in the back of your mind, but having an objective way to quantify what you already thought you knew, or not, means that we are better armed to recognize manipulation when we see it. That's really what this system is all about, recognizing manipulation. It gives you no information about whether the topic is something good or bad. No moral or ethical conclusion is drawn. It doesn't state which side is right. That means there is no reason to bring tribe into the discussion. You can talk to just about anyone about the probability that we, not you, not they, we, are being manipulated. To what end? I have no idea. But there most definitely is an agenda, or the government wouldn't feel the need to manipulate us. I suspect that the reason is to keep us fighting each other. That is why everything seems to be about Trump. He is the most divisive person on the planet at the moment. I'm not saying that he should be or shouldn't be. I'm only saying that he is. That divisiveness creates sides among the American populace. As long as there are sides, one can be played against the other. This is Sun Tzu, straight out of The Art of War. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Or, if the enemy troops are well prepared after reorganization, try to wear them down. If they are united, try to sow dissension among them. Or, foment intrigue and deceit, and thus sow dissension between the ruler and his ministers. And of course, never stop an enemy from making a mistake. We, the American people, are the enemy when it comes to the American government wanting to get its way. There are so many obstacles purposely placed by the founders against government gaining more power that those in government who seek more power must do it subtly and without alerting us. Like it or not, this is not Democrat versus Republican, as those in government would like you to believe. It is government versus the people. It always has been. As long as less than 51% of Americans hold government jobs, the American people hold the power to stop our government from doing anything we don't like. Until the majority of Americans have a job in government, at any level, the government must find ways to pit us one against the other. It doesn't matter how silly or stupid the fight is. All that matters is that we are fighting each other, not the government. Don't forget that not so long ago, Democrats and Republicans used to talk to each other. We tended to agree on the things that needed to be done. It was usually the how that we disagreed on. Government and the legacy media that we all grew up trusting has changed that. We need to find things that we can all agree on and focus on those. Releasing the Epstein List and making sure that those on any side of the political aisle are held accountable is one of those things. Until next time, remember that you have more in common with your neighbor, no matter what their politics are, than you have with the government.